Boston's food truck scene is exploding with nearly 70 different options, from artisanal grilled cheese to America's first Ughyr food truck. But not everyone likes the way the trucks are disrupting Boston's food scene. Traditional restaurateurs say the mobile kitchens are taking a bite out of their clientele. WGBH News reporter Adam Riley has part 2 of our Focus Report.
They're your pierogi dumplings. Enjoy. I would recommend the soy aioli.
When Andrew Lee and his sisters decided to get into the food business, they didn't have the money to open a restaurant. Fortunately for them, there was another option.
I think that the food truck was the only thing that was financially feasible for, a startup business like ours.
Their timing was ideal. When Maymay's Street Kitchen rolled out in 2012, there were only about a dozen food trucks in Boston, and there was an appetite for the Asian-inspired, locally sourced cuisine that the Lees had in mind.
I think that people are very much interested in learning where their food comes from these days. It's very important to them, and that everything is done in a sustainable and responsible manner, that the animals are being treated humanely, pasture-raised, humanely raised, and that kind of thing.
Now Boston's food truck scene is booming, with 66 trucks working in the city, and Maymay is thriving. Business is so good, the Lees recently opened a brick-and-mortar spot near Boston University. As Andrew Lee sees it, food trucks are clearly a force for culinary good.
Our guests, our clientele, and people in general have gotten really excited about food trucks because it's given them the ability to explore something new.
But the trucks are giving other restaurant owners heartburn.
They didn't tell us when I signed this lease 10 years ago that 4 wheels were going to pull up in front and take away maybe 25% of our business that day.
Al Costello owns Al State Street Cafe, a financial district spot with a sister restaurant near South Station.
How are you today, honey? What can I get for you?
He questions the city's decision to put food trucks in some neighborhoods, but not others.
Why it's only in the financial district is beyond me. You don't see them in the North End on Hanover Street. You don't see them anywhere else. I can see for the tourism, fine. But to hit the business lunch crowd, this is how we make a living, it doesn't make any sense.
On a recent weekday, Costello's 2 restaurants were bustling. But he says the negative impact of food trucks isn't always visible.
Now, I was going to open a store down on Clarendon last year. I shied away because I wanted a guarantee from the city that they weren't going to put a couple of 4-wheel trucks in front of my door. I'm just one example of a restaurant that would have been opened already that isn't.
But Maymay shows that goes both ways, with food trucks leading to sit-down spots that otherwise might not exist.
I think that I would ask that gentleman or any other individual who sees food trucks as a threat to their business, what have you done to innovate your business in the recent past? How many times have you changed your menu? How are you innovating yourself?
For starters, he says Costello might want to open a food truck of his own. I did ask Al Costello if he would think about opening his own food truck. For now, at least, the answer is no.
So this complaint he has that people with their 4 wheels can pull up right in front of his restaurant and open shop, is that legitimate gripe?
It depends on what the meaning of the phrase right in front is. There are trucks near Costello's 2 locations. In the case of his South Station spot, you can see the trucks from there. But the city of Boston is pretty strict in terms of regulating the sites where trucks can park and do business. And there are no trucks directly in front of Al Costello's front doors.
Got it. All right, Adam, thanks for that. Well, my next guest owns one of the most popular food trucks in Boston. James D Sabatino is the founder and owner of Roxy's Grilled Cheese, which just opened up its first brick-and-mortar restaurant right here in Brighton. Welcome.
Thanks
Good to have you here.
Yeah, this is great.
So you are, as I just said, one of the most successful. There's 66 trucks now. There were 12 a couple years ago. Is the competition good?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't really look at it as competition with other trucks. I mean, the more trucks that can kind of grow in the city, I guess the more collaborative it can be and the more the culture kind of grows. So, I think maybe at some point it reaches a saturation point. Whether we're there yet or not, I'm not sure. But, I think so far it's been great.
I mean, there are far, far more trucks in Washington, D.C., Seattle, New York, of course. Is the permitting process still laborious here?
Yeah, I mean, I think regulations here are a lot more strict than cities like New York and D.C. and obviously cities like San Francisco and Portland. But I'm really, I'm not sure. It feels like it feels like it's challenging. You know, we don't kind of have the autonomy that those other cities have, so we're kind of constricted to very specific spaces, which obviously limits earning potential because we don't get to pick those spaces. But you know, so far it's been a progress. There's been a lot of progress working with the city, so we're being able to do things that we like to do. All
right, I'm going to bring Mike Ross into the conversation. He's a former Boston City Council president who really, Mike, you spearheaded the whole effort to bring food trucks to the city. You know, when I was listening to Al Costello there, he makes a good point about the North End. I mean, first of all, Hanover Street would be a bit of a problem to put a truck, although everybody else double parks there. I don't know why a food truck couldn't be there.
Well, add a truck and you're in trouble on Hanover.
I know, but I mean, his point is no one's trying to compete with the North End restaurants.
Right, right. Well, look, the city is, first of all, it's great to be back. The city is sensitive to other restaurants. In fact, on the application online where you can actually suggest new sites, one of the only 4 or 5 questions is this near a restaurant? If so, what is the name of the restaurant? So they're aware of this. The North End, Hanover Street in particular, is a string of restaurants.
True.
So by definition, it wouldn't be there. You also wouldn't see it on Newberry Street. But there are locations, like where we are here, WGBH, that are kind of crying out for...
They're desperate.
Yeah, are desperate, where there aren't places to go. I mean, with the exception of the Stockyard, which is across the street, which is great. If you don't have time to sit down, you know, you'd like to grab something quick from the food truck. You know, Al is great. He has the best subs, and he's the perfect character for this position. You know, because he really speaks his mind, and I hear where he's coming from. But if you know, brick and mortar was so horrible, why are all these food trucks now, like, you know, Roxy's has a brick and mortar store, Mimi, Banh Mi, there's the Clover truck. You know, they're onto a brick and mortar store. If it was so horrible, they wouldn't be going in that direction. What food trucks really let people do is it lets people start their business. You can't afford to get in at a restaurant level, but you might be able to at the food truck level. So it's working from that perspective.
Is this strictly seasonal for you? I mean, can you do it year-round or no?
So we've opened in the last 3 years year-round. Obviously, this past winter was really, really challenging for not just us, but any food truck
parking,
we ask. So, I mean, moving forward, I'm not sure if food trucks will be more of a year-round thing or a seasonal thing. I think for us, especially opening this first restaurant, it's kind of put our focus more towards us to, you know, growing our brand as a whole, not necessarily trying to go out there and make a few dollars in a 15-degree day.
So is the restaurant an extension of your food truck, or do you offer other things on the menu other than cheese?
So our restaurant is kind of an expansion of our food truck. The food truck was just a proof of concept for me. I just wanted to see if people would enjoy eating in that type of setting, eating from a truck in downtown Boston, and the type of food we like to cook. So the restaurant just kind of expanded a little bit.
So Mike, going back to what you said for a second in the questionnaire, so the intent really is for the city to keep trucks away from restaurants? I really don't understand that at all. I mean, why keep it away from a restaurant any more than any other establishment?
I think the city's not trying to site their truck directly outside the store of a restaurant. In some cases, they've done that and they pulled it back. So, I mean, you know, the person who runs the food truck, it's a person. You know, she has a phone and she gets complaints and she can make adjustments as it occurs. I think the city's food truck program in Boston is pretty progressive. I mean, this was a program we looked I remember when we were starting this. We went to the places where the food truck program failed. In LA, a food truck can pull up anywhere. There are no guidelines. They could literally pull up in front of any restaurant. That's completely unruly. I think the city...
The streets are big and wide there, though, and the restaurants are all... You either got to drive or take your bike or a motorcycle. I mean,
sure,
so it's not like
you still don't want to be the restaurant that gets pulled up in front of in any city. So I hear Al's point, and I think the city's tried to work with it. But at the same point, if he had his way, he would have 200-300 feet, 400, 500 feet. By definition, you'd start to run out of places where you could even put these things. So I think that goes too far. I think the city's still trying to figure out the program. They continue to add pieces to it, but I think they've done a pretty good job.
So your positions rotate. Do you get like it's like being a judge. I mean, do you get like a schedule for the month or
so there's a food truck lottery that happens in January that basically dictates our spots from April until the following March.
You could get really messed up for the summer.
Yeah, it's a little challenging to kind of predict how you're going to do over the course of a year. but it's kind of exhilarating too. I mean, any way you look at it, you're a street vendor.
Like, where are you now? Where's your location?
We have several locations. We have over a dozen locations. Some of the better ones are like the SOA Open Market on Sundays. We're also on the Greenway several days a week. But
you have 12 trucks?
Oh, we have 2 trucks, 12 locations. So every day, different lunch every day.
So how do you? Can you decide where you're going to be?
We can and we can't. So basically, a lot of trucks are either on the Greenway or part of the City of Boston program. The City of Boston program, like I said, is a lottery system where you basically pick your name out of a hat and pick what spot you'd like to be in, and hope that no one else gets that spot first. And then the Greenway is kind of a bidding program. So there's a lot of legwork as far as scheduling your truck out for the year.
So, Mike, what is this food truck program going to look like in another decade? Are we going to be like Miami, or are we going to have hundreds, do you think?
There'll be something else. I mean, look, we don't still have potato vendors on the side of our streets, or people selling pickles out of barrels, right? This all changes. And this today is one version. Who knows what 10 years from now? It'll probably be food flying saucers.
Exactly, they're going to deliver it like this, right?
Exactly.
Like Amazon's going to deliver it to your door, right? But on their drones.
Yes, exactly.
We're developing our drone drone right now, so.
Are you?
Yeah, we're
probably are. You guys are wild over there.
Listen, we'll just be happy if they bring something to this. I mean, when they do the build out of Brighton Landing there, I guess there might be a couple of restaurants, but it's really pretty.
Well, actually, I just want to. I took the liberty because I knew this would come up. I actually filled out on the form myself a suggest a site for this site for a food truck. So they have the request. It's in. And if they read their mail, maybe you'll have a food truck in the next few weeks.
Well, we're getting them once a month for the summer, but that's quite frankly inadequate.
So up them, right?
We need to up them.
Okay.
All right. James D Sabatino and Mike Ross, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Food trucks aren't the only industry disruptors making waves in Boston. Last night we looked at the new modes of transportation challenging the old guard. You can find that story and all our focus reports on our website. Just visit WGBHnews.org.